I want to talk to you about email newsletters. Now, it's a funny thing because I think a lot of us have assumed that email is somehow in the past, and particularly email newsletters. And perhaps over here in the UK, we use a lot of WhatsApp instead of email. But actually, even if you look at it in the UK, it's WhatsApp as well as email. Email's not going anywhere fast. And email newsletters are not going away. There's a huge industry around it. But I just wonder if you have a church email newsletter, or if you're a writer trying to produce a email list of people who might be interested in buying your books, or if you're just a Christian who wants to have direct contact with people in your readership, if you like, or people that you're wanting to reach out to, then email is actually quite important. And here at Patheos, where I've been for 20 plus years, well, actually, technically, my blog existed before Patheos and was ported across, but I don't even remember exactly when we came across. But my blog has been going for 20 years, and I always used to have a newsletter. But now Patheos runs one for me. And if you're not already subscribed to my Patheos newsletter, then what it does is it gives you an opportunity to always get my articles in your inbox. Get an email telling you whenever I've written. And actually, the statistics say that there's still quite a lot of people that find them that way, because how else are you going to find them? You see, social media is increasingly reluctant to send people to sites like Patheos or to show people your writing. And so email at least doesn't have these algorithmic gatekeepers. But if you're wanting to run an email newsletter, or maybe you already do, perhaps through your church, I want to ask you to consider whether moving across to Substack might have some benefits for you. Well, what's the first benefit? And by the way, Patheos will remain my home, and the Patheos newsletter for my Patheos articles will remain the case. But I do a lot more than just Patheos. I do a podcast, and I do various other things like that. And over on Substack, I am now running a newsletter for that purpose. And you could, in fact, move your church newsletter or your ministry newsletter, or if you're a missionary watching this, your missionary newsletter across to Substack. What are the advantages of that? Well, first of all, it's free. Let me just let that sink in a little bit. It's free. Now, they also do have a system where you can produce a paid-for subscription. So this is a sort of paywall, if you like, and an email that people actually pay to receive. You'd think in the days of spam emails, nobody would want to pay to receive, but some people do. And if you do decide to do that, and at the moment I have absolutely no plans or intention of doing that, although I guess one should never say never. But if you do that, Substack makes 10% of whatever you make on your paid newsletters. But for the rest of us who don't do that, it's free. And I thought for a little while about that, because they often say, don't they? Well, Steve Jobs, I think it was, who said that if something is free, then you're the product. But there's no advertising on Substack. So how do they make money? Well, they make money, like I say, through the people that do paid subscriptions. And even if I'm not either a giver of subscriptions, if you like, I don't purchase subscriptions, or if I don't offer them, then I am helping to build the ecosystem over at Substack and grow the pot over there of people that will potentially subscribe. So that's the model. So in terms of finances, it makes an awful lot of sense for you. But it also gives your church members or your newsletter members an opportunity, but not a requirement, to get a Substack account of their own. So they don't get a Substack account just because you've ported their email across, but at the bottom of each email, it will say, start your own Substack. Now, if you're trying to encourage your people to be thinking people, to interact and learn from each other and maybe outside sources, in between your Bible studies, in between your sermons, then I could suggest that Substack is perhaps a very good place to send them. There's less of the trolling. There's certainly less of the outrage. People over there seem to be a lot more thinking, a lot more, I was going to say serious, but there's also some fun over there. But certainly well thought through, real content, writer's content, if you like. And so it won't necessarily be a thing for everyone. And those of you who have people in your church, you think, well, there's no way they're ever going to write anything. And that's fine, of course. They don't have to. They don't have to create an account. They just receive the emails that you keep sending out as normal. But the difference for you is you can now make that newsletter much more dynamic. You could have video content if you wanted, right there in the email. You could have a podcast built into the email. You could have different sections if you needed it. You could have an email newsletter for a certain group of your church that's not open to everyone to join. All of these functions are available within Substack, and I suspect that over the next little while we're going to see something of a stampede of Christian, thoughtful people joining Substack. I'm not the only Patheos author that's over there, and I suspect others may join. And I'm sure an organisation like Patheos must worry a little bit that some people will leave and join Substack. Well, I don't see it personally that way, because it's a different audience. The fascinating thing for me is I've seen quite rapid growth over on Substack in the 3 weeks I've been over there, which has been quite remarkable, actually. How little overlap there is between that audience and the Patheos audience. Obviously, I'm trying to introduce Substack people to Patheos, and I'll be trying to introduce some of the Patheos people to Substack. And so therefore, we all benefit, we all grow, and we all learn. But I tell you, the thing about this Substack idea as well is that there is a potential for some of your members to become kind of evangelists in that online world. It's something that I always hoped would happen online, and to a certain extent it did in the blogging space, but social media ruined that, as I said in a recent interview I did with a friend of mine, Aaron Armstrong, who's an old school blogger. And yeah, social media's kind of ruined it all. But over on Substack, and there is this ability now to actually engage with people who are thinking people of different backgrounds. It's a bit like a modern Areopagus, I think they say, which is where the Greeks used to go and preach, not so much preach actually, but debate and discuss and all the latest ideas. Mars Hill we sometimes refer to it as, and Paul, of course, engaged there and discussed and debated. And if that's you, if you'd like to do that, I suggest Substack to you. Or if you just want to use it for a newsletter, a simple text-based newsletter, you can obviously do that too, with images and video and audio thrown in if you'd like that. There's much more to Substack than that, but I just wanted to mention it as a possibility to you today to consider if you run any kind of email newsletter. It may not be suitable, but have a look at it.